Hello, everybody. Dave Finale here from Real Estate Skill Builder. This is Real Estate Talk TGIF, episode 62. And 62 is all about Chris Hart. Now, I said this is Real Estate Talk TGIF. TGIF, as you know, stands for Thank God It's Finale. Not Friday, even though it is a Friday, but thank God it's finale. Here we are, Real Estate Talk.
Dave Finale here from Real Estate Skill Builder.
Okay, Real Estate Skill Builder, episode 62. Here we are, Chris Hart. Chris Hart, tell us about yourself. Thank you so much for coming on, first of all. Chris is a former military, a real estate agent, learned a lot of stuff from people that we all know, like Greg Harrelson, and also has been in the coaching field for a while. So, Chris, tell us how you got from, A to Z over the last number of years and how you are where you are today.
Yeah, cool. So appreciate you having me on the show. Thank you for the opportunity just to kind of share who I am, my story, what I've done. And so appreciate that. 2005, I got out of the military. I spent 8 years in the military, met my wife towards the tail end of my commitment and fell in love. And I was like, you know what, what's going on kind of at the time in the military, I just realized I was just going to bounce back and forth from, the Middle East to the States, and I wanted to have a family. So I decided to get out. And the months leading up to getting out, I decided to get my real estate license. So I get my real estate license in North Carolina. I get out. We decide to move to Myrtle Beach. We don't know anyone other than, my mother, my father, my older sister, her husband, and her 2 little kids. And so I started in real estate in 2005. I started with a franchise company. They wear some blue colors. And interestingly enough, man, they didn't really give us any training. They were the top company in the market. I thought, big brand name, I'll get some really good training when I get started. And in reality, all I got was 1,000 business cards and a name tape and said, hey, good luck. And I was like, well, this is it? She said, yeah. My sales manager said, yeah. And I said, well, okay, well, what else? And she said, well, I hope you have 6 months worth of savings saved up. I said, well, why is that? She said, well, the average agent doesn't sell anything for their first 6 months. I said, well, we got 2 problems. I'm not average, and I don't have 6 months worth of savings saved up. So for the second time, she gave me the best advice. Good luck. And the reason why I say it was the best advice, because really what it forced me to do was to go out and use what I had, whatever resources I had at the time, and that was just 1,000 business cards and a name tape. And so I would literally just take a stack of business cards every day. I didn't count them. I didn't have a specific number. I didn't have a coach or a mentor that said, do this, knock on doors, say this. I just took business cards every day, and I said, this is how many people I need to go meet today. Because if people don't know what I do, how do they know to hire me? And so, in all that, I just started creating relationships with people, because like I said, I didn't know anyone. And I was just asking the very basic question, who do you know? I'm new to the area. I just started working with such and such company. I represent buyers and sellers in real estate. Do you happen to know anyone that might be looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? And so I say that because it was a very basic strategy with it, probably the most basic script ever. And in Myrtle Beach at the time, in my zip code, the average sales price was about 170, 175. And I wound up closing about 4.9 million in my first 6 months, and a little over 5 million my second 6 months. So, and the only reason why I have that segregated like that is because it was a very defining moment for me after my first 6 months, because my sales manager at the time said, I hope you have 6 months worth of savings, because most people don't sell anything for their first 6 months. So I measured it in that respect. And that's how, I got my business off the ground, and, eventually went off and started my own independent brokerage in 2006, started building that up. 2008, market crashed, went into, literally within 60 days, went into $78,000 worth of personal debt because of it. And when everybody was telling me, just pack up, sell what you can, go back in the military, take care of your family, you've got kids, be a responsible person, I wasn't going to quit. So turned around, revamped the company. I looked at what the opportunities in the marketplace were. We started working with investors, and we were representing short sales and foreclosures, and the people that were buying at the time were investors. So we got heavily involved in working with investors all around the country, getting them to buy here in Myrtle Beach, turned the company around, and built it up to be a very competitive company in the marketplace. Residential sales, commercial property management, residential property management, project development. We did pretty much everything. And then 2011 came around, or 2010 came, I lost my dad. That was a pretty defining moment for me. 4 months later, my wife lost her mother in a tragic car accident. And we were just looking for a change, and just so happened another franchise came around and recruited me to come run some of their offices. And so I did that in a couple of different states. I ran a 7th level team in Massachusetts in that same particular franchise. Then also went to work for their coaching company. Did that for a while, and then about 6.5 years ago, or 5.5 years ago, I went full time to my own coaching company. Been doing that ever since. So it's kind of like my overview of how I got into this whole real estate game.
So we had talked the other day about different things, and you said you really had to get good at real estate because of your competition.
Yeah.
Talk about your drive and talk about that person as well.
Yeah. So the initial drive was I had to make money, right? Just one of those that I felt, my wife was working as a manager in Fridays, which is cool, which is a great job. But I'm like, here I am just hanging out on the couch for 2 months waiting for my real estate license to transfer from North Carolina to South Carolina. My wife is the bread maker. I'm like, come on, Chris, you got to do something better than this. So my initial drive was just to go make money. The second drive was when my sales manager told me that I'm not going to sell anything for the first 6 months. I was like, I got to prove her wrong. And then in all that, I ran into a gentleman. So I started beating the streets, whatever. And then I had a mentor from when I got my license in North Carolina, called him up one day, and I'm like, I have some sort of figuring some stuff out. I need some direction, not getting any. What do I do? He said, are you prospecting expired? And I'm like, what the hell's an expired? He's like, Chris, an expired is when a listing expires and it's no longer active. I'm like, what do I do with that? Like, I literally was that naive, right? Like, I was good at jumping out of planes and shooting stuff and blowing stuff up, but when it came to sales, I was really naive. So he encouraged me, sent me a script, and he said, go do this. He gave me the direction, and I started doing it. And I started bumping into this one guy by the name of Greg Harrelson. Which, if this video ever gets to Greg, I love you. You and I have had lunch, and I've told you that my success today in expires prospecting and scripts and that sort of thing is predicated on having had to compete against Greg, because Greg at the time was the #1 agent in the market, if not maybe #2 or whatever, and he was just a beast when it came to expired listings. And so, in order to survive in that, I had to know what he was doing. I had to elevate my game and get really good at it, because I could guarantee if I called someone, they had already talked to Greg, or if I was going on a listing appointment, Greg was either walking out or walking in. It was like, that was just what it always was. So I literally had to really just dig in and be like, man, I've got to compete with this guy. I don't have to be better than him. I don't have to be #1. I just have to be able to get some market share. And if I can do that, I'll be good. And so that's what elevated my game. And I met Greg, in the early years, and I told him, and Greg's a great guy. And he literally gave me some pointers, which is the crazy part, right? He was my competitor, probably my #1 competitor. I don't think he even considered me a competitor at the time. But I did well in expired prospecting and FSBO prospecting and circle prospecting. Like, that was my game. Prospecting was my game.
Right. Well, Greg is a great broker. He's in the Century 21 system, and I was just trying to tag him, but I couldn't get it done. I was like concentrating on what I was doing. I was trying to do 2 things at once. But I'll get this over to him for sure. But Greg is like relentless, and he's done some really great things with scripting, and not scripting for like we're going to talk about now, but in his follow-up email systems and stuff. He's been really great with that. We've had long conversations about that. So anyway, so you get into coaching, you go from there, right? So tell me about Tell me about what your coaching company does, and it's called Transforming Lives Coaching and Consulting.
Yep.
Talk about the word coaching and talk about how that all intertwines with what you're doing.
Yeah, the interesting part when I got into coaching back in 2000, 19, 13, something like that. I did it. I started doing it because I told you I was running some offices. I was a team leader in the Keller Williams system twice, and every time I left a market center, some of my ALC, Associate Leadership Council in that franchise, they said, "Hey, can you still continue to coach me?" I said, "Yeah, I'll do it." And I was doing it for like $250 a month, just so they had some skin in the game.
Right.
Mostly because I still believed in them, and I just wanted to do some of that. And so, long story short, when I was running a 7th level team, I had to move back to Myrtle Beach. Family, my mom, my sister had some health issues, and I felt like I needed to be there for them. And so when I moved back, I was still running that team from afar. We did that for a little while, and then me and the team lead, we just parted ways amicably. And my wife was like, "Well, what are you going to do next?" I was like, "I'm doing this coaching thing with about 8 or 10 people. I really like it. Let me see what I can do with that." And so I built this program while I was running this team that was at the time up in Massachusetts, were 98% running foreclosures, and the market was shifting. And so I told the person that owned the team, I said, "Look, dude, your market's shifting. And your team is all foreclosures, working with banks and just servicing." And he's like, "That sounds like your problem. Go fix it." So how fast the market was shifting there, I wasn't going to have enough time to go out and recruit all people that matched behavioral profiles and that sort of thing. So I literally wrote this training program to train the people up on scripts to go out and how to get traditional business. And I took someone, if you understand like behavior analysis and that sort of thing, in the Keller Williams model, they had models by which they say this person with this behavioral profile will be the most successful at doing this job. Well, all the people didn't match what the new kind of behavior needed to be to go out and get traditional business. So I say that because I trained them up on this script and prospecting program that I wrote, and the lead listing agent goes out and takes 17 listings in her first month, 15 listings in her second month, 13 listings in her third month.
Holy cow.
Yeah, we just ran it from there.
Oh,
like, she was anything but the personality that she, as a matter of fact, in the match profile, she was a minus 34% match. So obviously I realized, all right, okay, this is actually working. So fast forward, when I decided to go into coaching, I looked at that program. I said, man, I could take this to the industry and go sell it. So I did.
So you're talking, let me interrupt you for a second. So you're talking about certain scripting where she's getting 13, 14, 15 listings a month?
Yes.
Holy crap.
And she had never prospected for a listing. Any of the listings that she did before were all bank foreclosures, and she was just servicing them. So I taught her how to go out and prospect. Well, I didn't write the program and then turn it over to her. It took 60 days to train her. But in that 60 day, after that 60 days, we said, okay, let's, release, pull the cord, go. 17 listings, 15 and 13 successively in those months. And the only reason why her numbers went down is she just got busy, right?
Yeah.
That's the hard part in this industry. You start getting business and your time on task available to prospect starts to become more challenged. And so that's what happened with her. But fast forward, I wrote this script coaching training, and in my first 4 months, I made 150% more than I was making in my salary as a CEO running a 7th level team. And so I ran with that, and I ran that coaching program for a number of years. And then I just stopped doing it because I realized that the industry was changing, and it wasn't just about the same old scripts. Hello, thank you for taking my call. It's Christopher Hart with ABC Realty. I'm calling to every Justin from multiple listing service has expired. Blah blah blah. Right? I realized, like, you know what? This game to play it at a high level, you've got to be a consultant, right? And a consultant is defined as someone who provides expert advice professionally, and scripts can't do that for you. So the only way you can win, and I started learning the game of influence from Tony Robbins by going through all his training. And, he talks about sales and leadership. It's no different. It's influence. And the only way you can influence people, if you're talking about being a consultant, providing expert advice on the goals, desires, and outcomes they're trying to achieve. Pre-formulated scripts can't do that. Conversations can. So I started studying different things about influence, creating a new model of influence or models to influence people through scripts, right? So I came up with a model it's scripts, which are your foundation, but I actually teach people, earmuffs, leaders out there, because this is really going to be hard for you to hear, but I'm the coach that tells people, get off your scripts. Everybody else in the industry, stay in your scripts. No, you can't do that. Get off your scripts. Use your scripts as a baseline, elevate to dialogue, get into conversation. And that's what I teach people.
So you're talking about people are going to learn their scripts in the beginning or whatever, right? And you're talking about get off your scripts.
Yeah.
And you also said, I got two convoluted questions here, right? So we're talking about people need to be a consultant in order to build their business. Now, I'm going to ask you this question because since I've been in the business a very long time. I hate to tell you how long, but we always said that you need to use the consultative approach. Now today, and I'm going to say that if we'll get a few hundred views as we go along with this cast here, I'm going to tell you that most of these people think they are being a consultant.
No.
What are they being, and what's the difference?
Well, the problem is you probably are a consultant to some level, but you're not a high-level consultant, right? Because high-level consultants don't go in there with scripts, right? They go in with, reason being is in order for you to provide expert, so the very definition, right? So let me back up for a second.
Sure.
The reason why I say no, or you're not being a high-level consultant, is not to offend anyone. It's to understand that if you can't define what a consultant is, how do you know you're being one, right? So if you're watching this, listening, whatever, write this down. The very definition by whatever Webster, look it up on dictionary.com, definition of consultant is someone who provides expert advice professionally, okay? Now, if you take the word expert, that's further defined as someone who possesses a skill in a particular area, a high elevated skill in a particular area. Scripts alone cannot afford you the ability to provide people expert advice professionally on the outcome, goals, and desires that they're looking for. Why? Everybody's situation is different. Okay. And the reality is you have to, in conversation, through questions, extract the information that you need to understand what their situations, their motivations, their goals are, match it with the market, and then be able to provide them the expert advice that a consultant or someone who's defined as a consultant can actually deliver. A script cannot do that.
But Chris, don't the scripts that we learn, I mean, all the great ones, Mike Ferry, Tom Ferry, Kevin Ward, whoever it is, you have all these scripts. Don't those scripts ask questions?
They do, right? So again, I teach a 3-tiered approach, which is script, dialogue, conversation. Our goal is to get into conversation. So scripts are defined as a one-way presentation of information such that you're talking and someone else is listening, okay? Now, in there, you might have a question or two that you ask. Dialogue is when 2 or more people are actively exchanging language spoken, okay? So once you ask a question and someone responds, you've now elevated into dialogue. So that's good. Guess what? You're now off your script. So where I think a lot of real estate agents get challenged is, or where they create fear that holds them back from taking action is, what if I don't know what to say? What if they ask me a question that I don't know? And that's why, because they're only living on scripts. And yet when they ask a question, now you're at the behest of information, okay? So when you go from dialogue to conversation, dialogue where 2 or more people actively exchanging language spoken, conversation is that same definition of dialogue, but now it has 2 key ingredients. It has purpose and direction. And when both people are on the same page, talking about something, going in the same direction, and there's a defined purpose that you're trying to lead that person to, that's when you have conversation. That's where the magic happens. And so you need to know, I tell agents, you need to know the models that can allow you to navigate those conversations.
So would you say that if I said it was, okay, so we're going, our conversation starts transactionally and should develop into relationally.
Yep.
So if this is, okay, so this is a little different than everyone is taught, because I don't believe that everyone is taught to get into the conversation. They're taught to get into a conversation. No, I take that back. I believe the objective of every trainer and coach is to get their clients, their customers, their students into the relational conversation. But I don't think they ever get there. Would that be a good assumption?
So here's the number one reason why. Look at all your scripts. Your scripts are you telling someone, ending with a question, receiving information. And I promise you, I don't care if they're Mike Ferry scripts, Bold scripts, Chris Hart scripts, this script, that script, they're all sell and tell after that. They're all sell and tell, right? Whether it's the LP Mama, and then your objection handlers or your expired scripts, your FSBO scripts, everybody goes into sell and tell. And yet we have some of the best trainers in the game of real estate and sales will sit there and tell you sell and tell is the old school boiler room way that we sold. Today's is about what? It's about influence, about asking questions. And we tell people, ask great questions, but yet we're not teaching people how to ask great questions.
I believe, and this is what I work in my programs, is talking about like being more relational than anything else. I mean, people talk, so I just want to get in, I want to take like a quick sidestep for a second. So we're talking about prospecting. You're teaching people how to prospect, but the whole thing about prospecting is direct. People believe in direct prospecting, where they call that expired, they call that for sale by owner, or they get a lead and they pound the crap out of it until they either hear something or don't. I believe that's why it's only a 1 to 2% conversion rate, because they do pound the crap out of it. Now, my belief really, in what I try to work with agents on, is that you need to be a lot more relational. You need to think about micro commitments and the questions you're using through not only your phone calls, but also in your social media posting. Would that make some sense to you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, the challenge with that, David, is do you have a model that can walk people through that, right? Once you have a model that you can walk people through that, that becomes valid, right? If you don't have a model that, I can bring 10 people onto my team and duplicate you, then the reality is I need to go out and hire 10 U's. And that's hard. And when I say 10 U's, 10 David Finales.
Right.
And so that's where we wrote that script coaching programs that, we tried to put Chris Hart on paper, right? Minus the personality, minus the high D. Like, how does a high I take this? How about a high S or a high C or SCIS? That sort of thing. So, I just encourage people, nothing's right or wrong unless what you're able to do for people is right? Otherwise it's wrong. And so, that's a hard message sometimes to comprehend in sales, because in real estate, we're talking about very one-dimensional stuff. Like how many dials did you make? How many contacts? How many appointments did you set? It's like, it's all about you and not about the people. And we convey energy. People pick that up, right? If you're not out there going out to have a conversation with someone, and this is just a contact, you emit a different energy. When you're trying to sell and tell someone, we're the number one team, and I'm just going to say Hoboken because I know that's where you guys are at. We're the number one team in Hoboken. We're great with this. We sell more real estate than the top 15 people combined. Pound my chest, and you're supposed to. I call it the pound my chest and impress. People are like, "That's great. What are you going to do for me?" Right?
I call it ego marketing. I call it bullshit marketing.
Everything you hear in sales today is tune into WIIFM. What's in it
for me?
And yet we go out and talk to people and tell them how great we are.
That's right.
Complete disconnect.
You are so right, man. I'm laughing because this is the shit I've been talking about for years, and it's like,
And don't get me wrong, there's value in being the number one team in the market, but understand there's also value in being number 2, 3, 4, right? So prime example, when I said earlier, when I competed against Greg Harrelson was the number 1 agent in the market. So in theory, wouldn't that say if you're only going to lead with being number 1, then no one else is going to get business? Well, I was still getting business.
Right.
I wasn't trying to be number 1. I wasn't leading with that. I was leading with what I could do for them.
Do you think there's too much worry about number 1, number 2, and the award? Do you think there's too much to that crap?
Of course.
So you know what? Like I say to people, I said, what do you call the guy who finished last in medical school?
A doctor.
Exactly. He's still getting business. He's still practicing, and no one knows that.
That's right.
And you know what? He could be the best freaking doctor in the world.
Yeah.
Right? They'll call him doctor. So anyway, so let's talk about. You mentioned really quickly, and I want to go into okay. So first of all, we agree the agents really haven't evolved, right? So they need to evolve. How does an agent evolve from what is, to me, the majority of marketing, the majority of speak, the majority of conversation? I call it 1990s or 20th century stuff, right? How do they evolve into 2019, 2020, 21st century? How do they evolve?
Commitment. You got to be committed to your craft, right? And the sad part is we spend so much time in classes on what to do, right? Like, man, you go put David DeVoe in a room and everybody wants to know what David DeVoe did. You go and put Greg Harrelson in a room and everybody wants to know, oh, what'd you do? Like, how did you become them? Like, how to, right? Like, and then yet, if anybody knows the Keller Williams system, right? They have these things called bold laws. And I love them, right? Because they're just these statements of psychology that change the way you think. And it's be, do, have, right? Like most people want to know, what did you do so I can have what you have? Or what do you have? How'd you do it? And then they leave off the be, but yet it's be, do, have. Who do I need to be? I realize I need to be a consultant. I need to be someone that can compete at the level that Greg was competing, not doing what Greg was doing. I needed to be someone who can do what Greg was doing, right? So the commitment is, who do you need to become, right? Do you need to become that consultant? How do you become that consultant? Go out and get models. Don't try and figure it out. The models are already there. Go get those models that can allow you to sit down and be that consultant. So how they elevate it's all in the be.
So it's to evolve, they need to commit to, like you say, being that consultant.
Mm-hmm. Commit to your craft. Most people don't know what their craft is.
But I'm just going to say, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. They don't know. Okay. And I'm not talking about everybody. And I don't mean to insult anybody that's watching this. What I mean to say is, okay, you have to commit to your craft. But if the craft is using scripts, we've come full circle back to the 20th century again.
No, but the craft is not scripts. The craft is conversations, right? Like if I showed up, right? If I showed up to your office and was like, hello, David, good to see you, talking to you and your team. And I'm like, hello, David, good to see you. Sounding very robotic, monotone, saying the same words. You're like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? But if I come in and I'm being related, hey man, how's it going? Tell me about your business. Awesome. Hey, what are your biggest challenges? What do you think the biggest, coming into preparing for the last quarter of 19, going into 2020, like what's the biggest thing that I might be able to help you out with that's holding you back from being that, badass supercharger real estate agent? And then I start listening to him and I'm like, all right, tell me more. Where's that coming from? Is that mindset? Is that a skill set? Is that your willingness? Like what's happening? So I'm having a conversation with him, right? But I'm extracting value. And the more value and pain and understanding that I have leverage, and I could literally close them on if I wanted to sell them on coaching because I'm being relational. I'm making it about him, but I'm gathering value. Like that's your craft. That's your craft.
You're gathering value to use it in your pitch?
No, in your close.
In your close, okay.
Right. So we all heard logic makes us what? Think. Emotion makes us act. We're in the game of getting people to act. Your craft. So watch this. I even take it a step further. Logic makes us think. Emotion makes us act, but logic will hold us back from thinking. right? So I could literally tell you, oh, this handbag, the Gucci handbag, whatever, it's on sale for half price. Logically, you're like, oh, cool. And then I can think of yourself walking down the street, like, how good would you feel owning that? And you're like, oh, man, I would feel great. Awesome, buy. And then they go, but if I buy this, it's going to, I don't know if I can afford my bills, my rent, blah, blah. That logic in of itself will hold people back.
Right.
People move on pain and pleasure. So you have to, if we know this from psychology, right? I've studied psychology, and that's a whole nother story. I think I've shared that with you, David. But if we understand that what gets people to move is emotion, and the two greatest driving forces of emotion are pain and pleasure. Mastering your craft is mastering the craft of understanding how human beings move. What puts them into action? Because what you're telling them, it only gets them to think. And that's the problem with real estate agents is they go into a listing presentation with this PowerPoint telling them how awesome their team is, their company is, their this is, telling them, want to list with me? And they go, and what do they say? You ready? I'll think about it. You want to know why they think about it? Because all you've got them is thinking.
Thinking. Okay, so logic makes us think, thinking makes us act, but logic holds us back from thinking, right?
Logic makes us think, emotion makes us act, but logic will also hold them back from acting. So I say that to say is what I teach people is it's a process that you have to walk. You got to get them thinking first, right? Because sometimes their thinking is what's going to initially hold them back. So you get them thinking, you learn how to leverage the emotions of what information you've extracted from them, and then you've got to get that piece where you can go, makes sense, right? And when they go, yes. You've got them.
Okay, so question for you. People are really one of two ways. They either move toward pleasure or move away from pain, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so do we need to figure out which one they are? Like if we're talking to a seller, do we need to figure that out? Or can we be the same with everybody?
No, you need to know what people are individually, subjectively, right? So some people will say, well, I know I move away from, or I'm the type of person that moves towards pleasure. Really? Why aren't you crushing your goals? And there's something holding them back, right? So it's all subjective, right? Some people will move towards pleasure in certain ways and move away from pain in other ways. So it's a matter of knowing it in the moment, right? And understanding. Probably one of the best questions you can ask somebody at a consultation is, so tell me your situation, right? All right, write this down if you're paying attention, guys. People do not buy and sell homes.
That's correct.
People do not buy and sell homes. But Chris, I just sold with somebody yesterday. No, they didn't buy a home. They bought a lifestyle. The home is the vehicle to experience the lifestyle. The lifestyle is what? They're selling pain and they're buying pleasure. They're selling pain, they're buying pleasure. If you represent buyers, what's the pleasure they're moving towards? What's the pain they're moving away from?
It's just like you work for a living and you live for a lifestyle.
That's right.
That's plain and simple. That's.
Oh, we want to be close to transportation. We want to be close to, the subway. Why? Because my husband works in the city. Okay, why not drive in? Oh, that's, pain. You're listening for the pain points.
Yeah, it's just amazing. I mean, and we condition ourselves to a certain point as to, I believe that a lot of real estate agents and people in general are conditioned by the people they hang around with, whether they work with them, hang around with them, or their friends. And I keep telling people, and they don't understand it sometimes, that you need to upgrade or move around if you want to move up or around in your business. So, we got, what is the part that's conditioning the behavior or what the agent is doing? Is it the market that's conditioning them?
Yes. Yeah. See, I believe we're living in it's crazy times in real estate, man. It's crazy times. And I say that to say, because there's so much everybody's trying to disrupt something in real estate. And the reason why is because the real estate agent has never evolved. And big tech is coming in and going, well, okay, fine. If real estate agents are just going to be like real estate waiters and waitresses taking orders, like we can come in and yeah, we can come in and position ourselves. We can knock the real estate agent out. Why? Because we did it in retail. We did it in the music industry. We did it in the movie industry, right? We shut down Tower Records. We shut down, Circuit City. We shut down Blockbuster. We took the human being straight out of the equation.
Absolutely.
Simpler, more affordable, and easier for people. Now we get to monetize, and that's what they're trying to do in real estate right now, because the real estate agent is not stepping up. Why? Because the real estate agent's playing to the market. I have this statement that I tell people all the time in coaching: stop playing not to lose and start playing to win. Real estate agents, they're being order takers because they're so scarcity mindset. Now, when I say real estate agents, I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm just talking about the 90% of people who aren't producing, okay? And trust me, I don't say this recklessly. These are statistics that I know are true in the industry. So again, just please don't take offense to what you're hearing. They're big. No, I'm talking like the ones listening to this.
No, I get that. That's why I said what I said before. I mean,
10% doing this. Right? The 10% is doing this, and the 90% is looking at it like. So my point is, stop playing not to lose with people, which means you're sitting there. Okay, yeah. Okay, so I just told you your house is worth $749, but you want to list it at $775. Okay, so if I list it at $775, you'll list with me. Okay, great. That's an order taker.
That's right. Look, right? I talk about order takers all the time. I've been talking about it, I think, since 2001, 2002 is when the industry turned from professionals into order takers. And I don't say that to insult anyone, but think about it. Everybody got into real estate in 02, 03, 04, because guess what? Anybody could do business. You just had to have your pad ready to write the offer. And there were fist fights in driveways because people wanted the homes because of how it was. And then the shit hits the fan and all those people that got into the business because it was easy walked away. And now it's starting up again because people think it's easier. And we're learning from the people that learned back when order taking was the thing. What happened in restaurants? They used to be waiters and waitresses. What are they called now? Servers, which I think is wrong. It's a disservice to the people working their asses off in restaurants and doing a great job, but they're not called waitresses and waiters anymore, which meant they were there to help you. They're just called servers. Yeah. And that's what this industry turned into be. And you're right. And you said it the other day, and I'm just going to take for something you said, is tech is going to do their best to take it away, just like it did with Blockbuster, just like it did with Barnes & Noble and books, and Amazon did, right?
You know what they can't do? They'll never be able to, well, I can't say never. I mean, with all this AI crap, but at least for the next couple of years, you want to survive in this industry, you know what tech cannot do? Consult someone. Tech cannot consult someone.
That's right.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not here to try and, make people feel bad. That the problem is we've done what we've always done because we're listening to people that have listened to what people have always done. So we're just running this cycle. And it's like you said, it's worked for years and decades. You want to know why? Nobody challenged it. Now we're being challenged. Right? Look at a few years back when Redfin came in. Everyone was like, oh, Redfin. And there was, I don't know about Redfin. Well, Redfin's a player now, right? EXP came in and was like, oh, crap. Or no, EXP. EXP's a player now, right? Zillow, like all the things that we laughed at, guess what? Blockbuster laughed at Netflix too.
I want to differentiate something here too. And people are going to say, well, look at YHD and Foxtons from 15 years ago, and then look at Purple Bricks, right? They didn't last. Well, their business models sucked. That doesn't mean EXP is completely different. Keller Williams completely different, right? It's a different model. Blockbuster was, bricks and mortar. Netflix figured out a way to deliver it through tech, right? And that's Purple Bricks it was all about money. People say that the money is too much or whatever it is, Purple, it couldn't work. It didn't work. It didn't work with Foxtons, and it didn't work with Purple Bricks. So, I mean, but if that's not EXP, as I'm saying, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not here to say what company is better than the next. I'm here to show like the progression of the industry. And, you know, I give mad props to Keller Williams because when I went over to Keller Williams in 2012, right, like when I became a team leader, it was like right on that verge of Keller who, right? And everybody, you know, all these other companies were laughing at Keller Williams trying to come into, you know, big markets. Well, look at Keller Williams now. Right, so you just see the progression. But the props that I give to Keller Williams, that I think Keller Williams made a massive value play in our industry, is because they were committed to what? Making the agent better. Right? They were committed to making the agent better, where the other franchises were about making the franchise better. Right? Like putting your balloon, like there was this little picture of you on the sign, this big logo of a balloon, like it was all
is that way. It still is that way. I mean, here's the difference, I think, between the progressive companies in real estate and the progressive people in real estate is that the non-progressives or the older business model wants to have their name up there big, one. And number two, they want to give you what they think you need, not what you want.
Right. Well, I mean, that's all it is to say is, guys, like the message right now, it's not about I promise you right now, I really don't care. Every franchise has top players, right? And if you want to say your franchise is better, that's your opinion. That's okay, because the other franchises have people selling more real estate than you. So everybody's got a position in the industry, in the market. The message is to you, the real estate agents. Commit to your craft. Get better at your craft, because I promise you this. If you go out into that marketplace and you start consulting people, you'll learn how to consult people at a high level to where you can create that expert advice to help them maximize their opportunities to hit their goals, right? I make it real simple for agents. Understand something. You can only serve what you know the outcomes that they want. Sellers want their houses sold for the most amount of money in the least amount of time with the least amount of hassle, and buyers want to get a good deal. It's buy the right home at the right price to live the right lifestyle. When you can shape a conversation that leads to a consultation to show them how you can help them buy the right home at the right price so they can live the right lifestyle or get their home sold for the most amount of money, least amount of time with the least amount of hassle, you're going to be wanted in the marketplace. Tech cannot do that.
That's right. That's right. Well, man, look, we've gone through so much stuff in such a short period of time, and we're out of that as it is. And you know, I mean, I don't know if you know this, Chris, but this time of the broadcast, we talk about this thing, right? Everybody comes on for the hat. I know that you found out about it when you visited Jersey when we first met about a month ago, and you said, you know, can we get, and I said, okay, fine, we'll get on. I'll get you a hat, whatever. But anyway, we're going to get this hat to you as a thank you for being on this broadcast. And you know what? It's so great to see someone as progressive as you and how you talk about taking the word consultant and really meaning it's a consultative approach rather than just saying it. And to me, it's refreshing. And just to say one more time that Chris said and I said, this was all about what's going on and how to evolve as a real estate agent, nothing to do with business models or anything else or franchise, because everyone's got good stuff and they're all there and they all work for their own reason, for their own markets. And total respect for every franchise and every model that's out there for me. Opinions don't matter here. But anyway, Chris, thank you. I want to ask you one last question. How do people get in touch with you? Transforming Lives Coaching and Consulting. How do they connect with you? And just tell them that.
Yeah. So, obviously we have our website, transforminglivescoaching.com. That'll, show you kind of what we do. But I always like to tell people, man, I'll give you my personal information, right? I have I have my work email, but my personal one is CVHART. So CVHart@me.com. And my personal cell phone number, the one that you'll get me directly, is 843-855-9673. Again, 843-855-9673. That's how you can get to me personally.
Chris is out there looking to help people, as you know, that's what this really is all about. I mean, Real Estate Talk TGIF started as a commitment to, putting information out there for real estate agents, and we've been really successful. I've been really successful in bringing on the best people. Chris Smith, John Cheplack. We're going to have Tom Ferry on shortly, and Christopher Hart. Thank you so much for being on. Please stay on as we cut off. I'll talk to you for a minute. Everybody, thank you so much. This is the Labor Day weekend for episode 62. Have a safe and lovely, great weekend. And we'll see you next week with some more great stuff. Thanks so much.